Thanks for joining me on Life and Surround. Today, I would like to share with you the exciting news that Avalon by Roxy Music has been remixed into Dolby Atmos by Bob Clearmountain. Now, I say remixed because this is not the first multi-channel remix by Bob Clearmountain. In 2003, a 5.1 SACD was released. Yes, this is it, folks, the 5.1 SACD of Avalon by Roxy Music. This thing goes for big bucks on the out-of-print market. So one thing I would like to help all of you decide is whether you should hold on to your copy if you have it, if you should keep searching for it if you haven't found one yet, if you should sell your copy because the Atmos mix is so much better, or what you would like to do as I'm trying to answer these questions for myself. Now let's talk about Bob Clearmountain and multi-channel mixing. Not only is Bob Clearmountain like one of my favorite 5.1 mixing engineers, but he's becoming one of my favorite Atmos mixing engineers as well. Not to mention, his name is on so many great albums in my collection that he just really holds a special place in, my pantheon of mixing masters. Not only that, but Bob Clearmountain was an original engineer along with Rhett Davies on the original 1982, recording project. So we have an original engineer who did the first stereo mix, took a crack at 5.1 about 20 years later and nailed it, and then took a crack at Atmos another 20 years later, roughly, and in my opinion has nailed that. So I really love it when like really top shelf records are remixed into multi-channel by an original engineer. Like that happened with Moondance by Van Morrison. Elliot Shiner did the 5.1, the original 5.1 mix. In my opinion, in cases like this, there's a good chance that the engineer is bringing like a great deal of intuition into like the intent of the album, and like the original recording maybe, still lives in memory. And not only do we have the fact that Bob Clearmountain is an original engineer, having done 2 multi-channel remixes now for this album, but apparently he's also friends with Brian Ferry, and Brian Ferry has been personally involved in this multi-channel remix into Dolby Atmos. So we have, the input from the artist. And so it just stands to reason that what we're hearing in multi-channel, both for the 5.1 and for the new Dolby Atmos mixes of this album, that we are hearing the artist's intent with a lot of intuition from the engineer. And so that just makes this sort of thing really special to me. So we have a top tier album mixed by an amazing engineer. And I can report to you right now, 5.1 and Atmos, the mixes are great. You definitely want to check out one or the other or both. Okay, now, what's the difference between listening to the 5.1 SACD or streaming the new Dolby Atmos version? First of all, the mixing style. I did not dive as far down in the weeds as some people have. Like I've read some comments online and such. There are some differences between these multi-channel mixes, but I did do an A/B comparison of the title track Avalon from the SACD and then also streaming from Apple Music. And I can tell you that at least for the title track, the mixing style is remarkably similar. Okay, you have drums in stereo up in front of you. You have bass guitar front center where it ought to be. You have Brian Ferry front center where I feel he ought to be. You have Phil Manzanera hanging out like over your left shoulder, and you have Andy McKay hanging out over your right shoulder. So, guitar, at least the lead guitar is over here and saxophone over here. Some rhythm guitars can occupy sort of the front area of the room. Background singers are going to be in front of you or around you, depending on the arrangement of the song. And then keyboards kind of are doing their thing wherever they're doing their thing. I think it's probably a good thing since they bring like a lot of atmosphere and ambience to the record. That what I mainly heard, what I mainly was drawn to focus on by Bob Clearmountain was Brian, Andy, and Phil. Okay, in like a triangle around me, and I think that is just a brilliant way to approach this album. So in terms of mixing style, I'm not hearing enough to be able to give you a strong recommendation to, go 5.1 or Atmos on this one. And in terms of like the Atmos heights, because, Atmos can do, 4 or more channels, up at your ceiling level. I really didn't detect a lot of height activity for this album. So it's not like listening to Kraftwerk or Yellow or something like that. The heights, I didn't even really notice them very much, are probably used just to, provide some ambience for your room. And so I'm going to say that just for, like the surround experience, you could go either way on this one. The 5.1 is awesome and the Atmos is awesome. So I'd like to point out a couple of things about the SACD, and then that's going to lead to a comment about the new Atmos version of the album. So first of all, the track India on the 5.1 SACD is not discrete. They couldn't locate the master tapes, and so they took the stereo mix and they panned it playfully around you while you're listening. But India is, an instrumental track. I consider it a segue. It's about a minute and a half, maybe a little bit more. And it, passes playfully, what they did with the panning in 5.1, and then you're on to the next song. Now, if they had had to do that with More Than This, Avalon, Take a Chance with Me, or even like Turn You On, that could be like a huge detraction from this 5.1 version. But I don't think a discrete India really is a selling point or a showstopper. However, that being said, it is now fully discrete in the Atmos version. All right. So then the other thing to note is that only on the SACD do you get, only in multi-channel, the bonus track Always Unknowing. And I don't think it was ever going to be a smash hit, but it is a cool tune. And I'm glad that it's included on the SACD. It has not been provided as a bonus on the Atmos streaming version. Okay, so, points for Atmos is that you have fully discrete India, and then points for the SACD, the 5.1 version of the album, is that you have a bonus track. Now, also in SACD's favor, it is considered an audio file level format. I consider it lossless. And now streaming Atmos is very lossy. To me, I like to describe it as like the MP3 of multi-channel. I don't know if it's just because of bandwidth, internet speeds, or whatever, but streaming Atmos is highly compressed for file size. I don't mean dynamic compression, but I mean lossy compression where information is discarded so that it can be, streamed more efficiently to you. Okay, so that begs the question whether this title will ever receive a Blu-ray release. There was a tweet by Brian Ferry that suggests he at least hopes so. And even though he, mentioned a DVD, sometimes, people just use the word DVD to mean, a video disc or whatever. So DVD can't hold Atmos, and Brian probably knows that. But in any case, there is some hope that a Blu-ray could be released for this. And I think it would be like, an ATM machine. It'd be like printing money. If a Bob Clearmountain Atmos mix is published to Blu-ray, I think it would be an easy sellout. So I have to imagine that, the powers that be involved are eventually going to release this on Blu-ray. Let's hope. So for now, you have the choice between, the audiophile grade 5.1 of the album or the very well mixed but very lossy Atmos version of the album. Hopefully all this information helps you decide whether you want to check out the new Atmos mix, whether you want to just stick tight with your existing 5.1 SACD, or, if you don't have one yet, if you want to go track down the SACD, if you're so excited maybe about the new Atmos mix that you can finally get rid of your SACD. So again, I'm trying to decide those things myself. So, I hope that helps. And I don't want to take too much away from the streaming Atmos experience of this album. It does sound really nice. I have found in, my own comparisons of Blu-ray with streaming Atmos that I am just wanting more definition in the streaming Atmos version, particularly in the bottom end of recordings, like the floor toms, the kick drums, the bass guitar. I want some more definition. I find it lacking in streaming Atmos, and, just there. I find it there in Blu-ray Atmos. So, powers that be, if you're watching this video, please put out a Blu-ray. And, in the meantime, I do encourage you, if you have Atmos capability, either, in your home theater or even on your iPhone, that you should check this out. It's an amazingly recorded album, and it's always been, like an ambient pop tour de force, and just even more so now, mixed by Bob Clearmountain with Rhett Davies still in support, as far as I read. And so, we just have like a very, very special multi-channel situation here. So I hope you are somewhat as excited as I am, or maybe even more. I appreciate you watching. I hope you enjoy this new Atmos version of Avalon, or even just, maybe you're encouraged to go check out the 5.1 version again if it's been on your shelf for a while. Thank you for watching. Thank you, Bob Clearmountain and Brian Ferry and everyone else involved in, celebrating this album once again. I just love it when amazing top tier albums receive awesome multi-channel mixes. It really just makes my day and just makes life just seem all the more worth living. So speaking of life, thank you for watching Life in Surround. Thank you for your support. Don't forget to like this video, comment, share, subscribe, ring the notification bell, all that. Appreciate your support. And beyond all that, as always, I encourage you to live life in surround.